I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV and Channel 99. This is one of a series of interviews we're doing with the candidates for town elections in April. And with us today is Dawn Hill Holdgate, who is a candidate for the Board of Selectmen. Yes. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Dan.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing this? It's something I've thought about doing for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've really enjoyed my time on the HDC. I feel like moving into a position on the Board of Selectmen just broadens the scope of what I can do and offer to the town. Mm-hmm. I have a young family. My husband owns a long-time business on the island. I have my own active business in real estate, and I'm just very vested in the future of this island and the community. Mm-hmm. And I think that I can do some good.
First of all, let me just get rid of this question. If you're elected to the Board of Selectmen, will you stay on the HDC?
No, I think that it wouldn't be necessarily conflicting, but that it would be too much of a time commitment.
For you, it would be conflicting.
I would want to give...
Personally, it would be conflicting.
I would want to give going into the Board of Selectmen my all, and the time commitment on HDC is pretty tremendous. So I'd like to move all of my energy into the Board of Selectmen. And I'm also on the Board of Housing Nantucket, which I would step down from that as well.
What do you see as the major issues that are facing the town?
I think, there's a lot of things coming up at town meeting, but those will have somewhat passed by the time the election happens in regard to the school and the fire station and so forth.
Assuming they do pass, sort of look beyond that. What do you think are the next things that should be tackled?
I think that the hospital is a very important piece that has to, there's been a lot of discussion over the past couple of years, and I'm hoping that some resolution can move forward, and as a Board of Selectmen that I can help in some way facilitate that.
How do you feel about Wyers Valley? I don't think it's an option anymore.
I don't think it's happening anymore.
But I'm just curious how you felt about it.
I thought there was some good potential there. But it clearly came to pass that it wasn't what the people wanted, and I think that that's what we need to listen to.
Okay. What else? What else do you see on the horizon?
I think that there's a lot of traffic things that are being discussed in regard to the hospital. That somehow doing a realignment, or there's discussion of a potential rotary at the difficult intersection there next to the high school.
But that's not really under the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction. It's under the Planning Board and the Traffic Department and so forth.
Right.
How do you see the Board of Selectmen playing a role in that?
I think the Board of Selectmen just helps to encourage things and act as leaders, and they appoint to these different boards. Some of the membership, some of it's elected. And then obviously the financial pieces. Right.
Well, yes, everybody's concerned with those.
Right.
And there are some big issues. The sewers. The next, whatever the next phase of sewering is going to be a major financial undertaking.
It will be.
And how do you feel about that? Do you think it's something, when the expansion of the Surfside wastewater treatment plant occurred, there was this scheme set up to have it funded by the taxpayers to a third by users, and a third by new users, new user fees. Do you think that is viable, or do you think the town has really a responsibility to put in the sewers and keep them working, and therefore all the taxpayers should pay for them?
I'm just starting to get up to speed on some of this stuff, so I don't want to take a firm position in any way, but I think that something needs to lean a little bit more towards it being a broad taxpayer issue, and then maybe there will be some abatements for people who aren't on sewer is a potential, but I really need to do further study in that and make sure. A big thing that I think is important for the selectmen is to really properly do their homework and then make very informed decisions and to listen to what the public has to say.
One had the sense, as an observer the last go-round, that they were trying to avoid dealing with the issue as a broad taxpayer-based issue,
Right.
as much as they could. Put it on the users.
Right.
But that wasn't the way it was done in the beginning.
Right.
And Nantucket wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for the foresightedness of those people 100 years ago, and 150,
Right.
110 years ago, who first put the sewers in.
Right.
So,
And I mean, I think we do all benefit from sewer use in some way with clean water. And
what
we'll have to
about
look at that.
other water quality issues? Do you think that's something the board should be taking a lead on? Harbor water quality, pond water quality, that sort of thing. Is that important?
I think it's very important. I'm not particularly well versed in that. I will be further. I've been certainly very focused on the boards that I've been on, and I'm in the process of broadening my horizons, of having a really firm handle on some of these other issues, and certainly to defer to the other boards and committees that really have the expertise.
You have experienced a little bit of oversight in your role on the HDC,
Yes.
where the Board of Selectmen felt it had to step in, and that maybe things were getting a little out of hand and houses need to be put in order. Do you think that was an effective role, an important role for the Board of Selectmen to play? Not just for the HDC, but in other, possibly with other groups that are becoming somewhat dysfunctional, shall we say?
Well, I think it falls to the Board of Selectmen to set policy and to identify when things in the town aren't functioning properly. So I think that is a responsibility of the board as the leadership of the town.
What else? Do you feel that the town government in its present form can deal with the complexity of governance of the town and all its constituencies and citizens?
That's a very broad question.
It is a broad question.
I think generally our town runs pretty smoothly. I think that more responsibility has been given to the town management. I think the reorganization of Plus has been effective. I think that there are certainly other things that can be improved upon. And
but this idea of a board of selectmen
versus like a mayor
or a town council, not necessarily a mayor, but Barnstable, for example, has a town council, which can deal more nimbly with issues
Okay.
that come up before the town. Financial issues and so forth, where there is a problem, you don't have to wait for town meeting. You can deal with them sooner rather than later. And I mean, for example, this has come up in the context of the airport and the fuel issues, and if there was a problem because either fuel prices went through the roof or other things happened where a town council could alter the budget, whereas only in our system with a town meeting, the only entity that can fuss with the budget is town meeting itself.
Right, which I do think is important, to be able to give everyone the chance to speak on an issue. And you can always call a special town meeting. I know that it's costly is an issue there too,
But you hit on one of my favorite topics, the point about everybody can speak up and everybody can have a view. They don't come. The last night of town meeting, there are 190, 200 people there. Is that really representative? Is it, or is it the people who either like to be there for the action or whatever it is, or have an axe to grind about something?
Well, I think people show up when there's an issue that they really, really care about.
But is that fair?
Certainly to encourage more people to show up. I know that in the planning for the school article that's coming up, there's they're instituting some high school students to provide childcare. You know, I know that's a big issue for people in my age group with kids in the school, that maybe one parent will go. You know, they're not going to pay for a babysitter.
No, but they
so
tried.
can
I mean,
both
the
go.
Saturday town meeting was to at least some degree supposed to take care of that.
No, it not in April when all these people are working on Saturdays. I would say that the majority of the people who are in the landscaping and the building and in real estate, we work on Saturdays. So that is giving up a whole Saturday on a nice Saturday in April when they've got a lot of work to do is really hard.
But then
So the nighttime, I think, is better.
Then
but
well, maybe so. But you know, if I think people have to want to do it, and they have to want to be part of it.
yeah,
And you know, if they don't show up, and they only show up when there's an issue that's important to them, is it really a true democratic form of governance?
yeah.
I don't know. It's,
It's a good debate. Nothing's perfect in government. I mean, I think our whole democracy was laid out pretty well, but there's always issues.
Especially in a different age when you have time pressures. That, I mean, it used to be a social event, town meeting, and everybody went because it was a social event. What other things would you like to get across to our viewers in terms of what you'd like to see done as what you'd like to participate in as a selectman if you're elected, and where you think you can make a difference?
Well, I think that I have a long history of serving on a board. I have the experience. I'm good at working with other people. I think I complement the people that are on the board now and have something to offer as a slightly different viewpoint, and maybe a voice for some of the other mothers out there, or working mothers, that kind of thing. You know, the biggest issue that's important to me in the near future is figuring out what's going to happen with the hospital. I know there's just some discussion going on about Wilkes Square. That's important to me to see how that develops. And I just think that it's important as a board member to have common sense and to really think about how each decision will impact our future.
On the hospital, you know, basically the Wyers Valley's off the table. The park is off the table. So it's basically the hospital in its own envelope as it now exists.
Right.
So you get into the traffic issues and so forth. Where else can the Board of Selectmen play a role in that?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not completely off the table, the discussion of alternative sites or additional pieces of land in the area.
Well, I haven't heard it, but maybe
Well, the
that's true.
articles are still up for town meeting, even
right.
if they're getting negative recommendations. So I think that there will be further discussion on that. And I think it's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to provide leadership and to maybe think outside of the box as far as coming up with some solution. It may not fall to the Board of Selectmen, but it is an issue that's important to me, and I know very important to the community as a whole.
No, it is. It's very, very important. Just, I think one of the questions. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and another thing that's very recent is the town pier. And people are very concerned about it. And I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Sheila about it yet. But, you know, I was thinking that there might be some way in rebuilding it to engineer it in such a way that this doesn't keep happening, because it seems like there's been significant damage to it on more than one occasion. And it's a real detriment to people to lose that till halfway through the summer.
But isn't it true?
But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what the options are. Like I said.
Well, I think it comes down to money, probably.
Yep.
And I tend to agree with you that it should be done right.
Yeah.
I mean, but what they're talking about now is bringing it back to the status it was before the storm in January,
Right.
not to what it should be.
Right, so that's what I want to have further discussions about.
Whether you could do that in the context of even the 15th of July, much less, the 1st of June is
Right.
not something I'm qualified.
No,
to
neither
talk
am
about.
I, but it's something that I would like to find out more about,
One of the,
because it's in the last week, it's the issue that I'm hearing about.
one of the issues there is the procurement, which is such a long, drawn-out process.
Right.
And that's a unique thing to the municipal world.
Yes.
Your husband doesn't have to go through that. He makes a decision when he can on what
Right.
what he wants to do. But in the municipal world, you can't do that for probably good reason. But
Right.
it does take time, and they made the point in this week's paper. I think you probably saw it. That
Yeah,
that's part of the
that's
issue.
part
here.
of the problem,
But
the process.
yeah, I mean, we have no alternatives. And anyway,
So maybe that's something
yeah,
to look at.
okay. That's I think that is a good thing that the selectmen can control to some degree, and they can. I mean, but if it were to make it better, if you had the choice between bringing it back to the way it was, or really fixing it up, but that took all season. What would be your choice?
That's a tough one. I would have to weigh the costs and benefits of that, and have a lot more detail to make that kind of a decision.
I mean, clearly you want the thing open as soon as you could.
Yeah.
But if it was going to cost double ultimately to repair it back to the way it should be than it would if you did it all at once, I don't know.
And what other things could be put in place to help in the meantime? Could there be some sort of a launch service to get people to moorings that was instituted?
But the moorings are finite too.
Correct.
It does. I don't mean to argue with you. There's so many different things at play here,
Right.
which make these very tough and very frustrating decisions.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why I think that it's important to have people on the Board of Selectmen who have common sense, who want to weigh all of the options, look at what people want, care about the community, want to look towards the future, and can work well with the other board members.
I think, about sums it up. And Dawn, I wish you well.
Thank you.
Good luck to you in the election, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Dawn Hill Holdgate, candidate for Board of Selectmen.